And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, not only because this is your jam, this is your wheelhouse, but there was I don't know how recent it was, but you did post about hybrid work on LinkedIn. And when in my preparation for this, I was like, I just want to get as much out of you on this because I know this is part of what you impart in your keynotes, and you're very busy and very active across all industries, all sizes of audiences, and all over the world, really. Talk to us a little bit about what's been working that you're excited about, how the sands have shifted and what's resonating for audiences. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my biggest thing that I think speakers miss that is kind of like pretty obvious, maybe given what I speak about, is that my job is to make sure that the audience feels something and has an action plan, and that it's about them. It's about them. And this should be so obvious. Like literally what we get paid to do is go into a room of people at their event and make them feel something or teach them something or give them an experience. Yet I see so many speakers that kind of miss this. And the biggest thing that has worked for me, and I've learned this from several mentors of mine, is to do deep client interviews prior to my talk. And I don't mean with kind of the client sponsor or the person who's running the event or the person who's bringing me in. I mean with 3 or 4 or 5 people that are going to be in the room on the day that I speak. And so I'll get on a call with those folks and I'm asking them, how do you build connection on your team, right? What's working? What are you struggling with? How are you navigating hybrid? Just like we talked about.
Right.
But what's happening, how are you engaging Gen Zers and 25-year-olds that have different expectations about how fast things should be happening, right? The swipe right generation, right? How are you making sure the swipe right generation, my generation, which is the elder millennials, right? The Oregon Trails generation, the Gen Xers and the baby boomers are all happy. What's working? What isn't? What have you tried that's new? What are you struggling with? How are you thinking about AI? But it's not that I'm bringing in like the outside case studies. It's about them. So it's like, here's what Morgan Stanley is doing. Here's what Mayo Clinic is doing. I'm using their language. I'm talking about Susan does this. And everyone's like, he talked to Susan?
Right.
How do you know Smiley knows Susan? She's been there for 25 years.
Oh, you're the one person that talked to Susan. You're that guy.
Wait, you talked to Mark in HR? Like, oh man, Mark in HR. And I'm like bringing those in and those names, the acronyms, like, oh yeah, when we did, the annual summit in Nashville. And people are like, how does he know about the summit in Nashville? How does he know about the TTT strategy? Like for the future strategy? Like, I'm like, yeah, because so I'm bringing in their language, their ideas, their verbiage, their strategy, their goals, and what's working with them when it comes to connection and engagement. And so it gives me a sense of buy-in, and it allows me to really connect on a deeper level with the audience. And to my fellow speakers out there, this does not take that much time.
No.
Like this is not months and months of work. Like you're getting on a couple calls. I think you owe that to your client to do that prep. And for me, that has been so valuable that I brought that into my practice. And I think it's the single biggest thing that audience members say to me after. It's like, it really meant so much that you talked to us. And this felt like it was about us.
Yeah. Well, and on a practical sense, you're able to inhabit and really get on the ground, on their court, jargon, language, initiatives, what they grapple with, how they phrase it. And you're only using that to inform you so that you can take your distinctions in your work and your body of life, of career, and be able to really tailor it in a way. So it's brilliant. I see more speakers doing it. I encourage even more speakers to do it. I think that is a distinguishing factor for you. I know I have one particular client you spoke with up in Oregon, talking about the Oregon Trail, and they just raved about you. And I know you strike me as the kind of person that people love, but it's not by accident, Smiley. And, on the same note, at some point I have to make this about me, young man, but when I work with my clients and speakers, we set up these calls, some more than others, right? I like to be on the call for a couple of reasons. First of all, if there's anything that needs to be safeguarded or intervened on, whether it's on the buyer side or the speaker side, there might be some overreaching or something, I'd like to be there so that I can be that guide, if you will. rarely happens in 20 years. I don't think anything crazy has ever happened on a call, but I'm always aware that the possibility is there, a possible misunderstanding. Somebody assumes something, and he's going to be doing 3 days of speaking, and it was only 33 minutes or something like that. I digress. But what's important for me is if the speaker, in this case you, is on the call and you start asking some questions, maybe some very pointed questions, I get to learn how you operate. And I get to learn how you're digging in and how you're capturing what's important to you as you craft your tailored speech. And my buyer, I get to inhabit and understand what is more important to them on a deeper level than I already do. So not only for the one that you're working on that call, but in the future, I now have a history where I have a deeper understanding and I can serve them better. And that's part of my process, which I feel is kind of similar to what you're doing in the case of, getting people on the call there.
And that's rare. Can I just say that, Seth? Like I work, as you know, I'm a non-exclusive speaker, so I work with a lot of different agents and bureaus, and I am shocked at how many don't show up to the pre-calls.
Yeah.
They might have someone on their team, and that's really interesting. I mean, I'm fine with it. I understand that folks are busy or they have other priorities, but I'm like, oh wow, this is your client, and it's not just. I'm sure that you might have other speakers for this same event. So something that came up from Smiley's conversation is relevant to another speaker, or
Right.
for next year, or for their mid-annual meeting. And you can have that through line of, remember when you and Smiley were talking about that initiative, like, should we follow up on that with this speaker? And then also, I know this is really important to you. You show up at the events a lot.
Yeah.
So you're building the relationships, you can, which is better because then your clients better, what they do, how they run their events, and your speakers better because their content and their style and what sets them apart, so you can sell them better, which just makes you better at your business.
Thank you. And I love going for those very reasons, and also some low-hanging fruit. Some of my clients are punching above their weight and they have a kind of a Spartan team. So if I can show up and do the dishes, metaphorically speaking, or get you mic'd up, or whatever it may be, or run and go get the USB drive, or whatever it is, I can intervene and have support as well, or remind you that they don't refer to the attendees as customers, they're members, or whatever it is, and you're like, I know, Seth, you told me 26 times. Thank you for telling me the 27th time, but that it's important to them. And, I can be that hammer, if you will.